Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Tea and Trails podcast, and thanks to all our partners for supporting us and our community too. Pop over to Patreon and check out some great deals from Silva, Active Route, the Centurion Running Store, Protein Rebel and sportshoes.com. For the price of a coffee, you can unlock some great perks that will help take the sting out of what can be an expensive sport. Deep breath. Last but not least, thanks to all our patrons who dig deep every month and literally keep the lights hot and the mics on.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 12 of Tea and Trails. This week we have an interview with Flora Beverley and of course the bit you all really are here for, the ridiculous chat between Gary and I. We'll keep it a little bit more PG this week. Sorry, Dad, if you had to skip an episode. We'll try and keep, pants on. Pants on, curtains closed.
Body parts to a minimum.
Body parts to a minimum. Everybody loves a bottom joke though, don't they? Everybody. Not just children.
I think we peaked last week, Eddie. We maybe should have kept Nipplegate for a slow week, I think. Anyway, focus. How was...
I had itchy nipples all week. I kept thinking about the podcast.
Right. Come on, keep on track. Come on. I'm loving your yoga Facebook movement. How's it going? How's your week been?
Well, we talked to Ellis Bland last week and he inspired me with his talk. Literally, I got off that call, I stood up and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so stiff. What can I do? And then I was like, he'd just been talking about how his girlfriend was a yoga teacher and he'd taken up the practice and he was really not great at it when he started, but he persevered and she really inspired him with how hard she worked at it. So I thought, lots of people have been talking about yoga. There's something in this. I've done a lot of Pilates. So I've got that in my background, but I've always been a bit about yoga, thinking I like Pilates, especially my teacher, because it's core, abs.
Yeah.
Work, and I've always been a bit isn't yoga just stretching?
Well, yeah, sorry. Ignorant to both Pilates and yoga. What is the...
Don't ask me in deep question.
Okay.
But basically, I'm definitely learning about the yoga. What I've sort of found my Pilates is a little bit more prescriptive, maybe. These are the exercises and you do these exercises and you work through it. But every Pilates teacher is different. I imagine every yoga teacher is different too. Yeah. Pilates is all about centering yourself through the core, engaging with your core and doing different movements within that engagement. Yoga, it seems to be a lot more breath focused, a lot more how you are feeling. Do you feel that stretch, breathing into that stretch, which is brilliant for ultra running, controlling the breath, using the breath as a power, really like that. So I decided, right, okay, we were talking about Lent as well. Let's do this. So yeah, I wanted, of course, with anything, you need friends, you need accountability. So I was like, where are all my friends? They're over on the Tea and Trails Facebook group. Hey. So I posted over there, found Adrienne. I know that's, she's now my friend. And now she's Bryn's friend too, because Bryn's I love her voice. And he just watches the video while I do it. I think less said about that, probably the better. Anyway, I know I've got lots of clients that do her videos regularly. And she's
really popular.
She's really popular, but she's brilliant because she's brilliant. Yeah. And so I found 30 days of yoga with her, and then I went over on the Facebook group. It was who's in? Oh my goodness, everybody's in. I love it. And so I've been posting over there every day. And in fact, I loved it from the minute I started it. It just felt, and I'm sure people, yogis, as I'm now one of you, will say that it's just it's such a wonderful thing. It's so different to running that it's perfect for running. And one of the first things she said was, we were doing stretching something horrendous, and she was like, now you might start to feel a bit bored. And I was like, oh my god, I am feeling a bit bored. And she's like a mind reader of exactly how I would. Yeah, she's great. And everything she does, she's like, you might not want to do this. You might feel that you want to stretch more here. She does different variations. She's normal, but she's of course amazing. Makes everything look super easy. So I'm on today is day 8. And honestly, the transformation is amazing.
Wow.
So it's about 20 to 30 minutes. Some are a bit shorter than 30 minutes. Those are the really hard ones. It's better if they're 30 minutes. And so the first one, I think we had to sit cross-legged, and I really struggled with that. Just sitting cross-legged. You laugh, you try. Because we sat
I couldn't touch my toes, so yeah.
3 minutes in the cross-legged, doing different stretches. But then we did the same thing last night, and I was like, it's not easy, but it's not as uncomfortable.
Okay.
And then there's a lot of downward dog. And she said about putting the heels to the ground a couple of days ago. And I made a comment, and a couple of us on the Facebook group were like, heels to the ground. Anyway, then last night I was like, do you know, my heels are much closer to the ground.
Goodness me.
And they were. Everything just feels a little bit easier. I think a lot of that is learning, and I kind of know what's coming next, but I am loving it. And it is definitely something I'm going to carry on. And it's brilliant, but I have to answer, I could not do it. Last night, I'd been running, I'd been skiing, I'd been working, and it got to like 7:30, and I had just about to put the kids to bed. And I was like, I haven't done it. Commit to the process.
Dedication.
And the nice thing about it is you always feel better afterwards. You're not going to come away going, well, that was a waste of my time.
I don't ever remember doing exercise thinking, I wish I hadn't done that.
Very occasionally a run if I've injured. But no, you never think, I wish I hadn't done that.
What about after the 30 days? Obviously, Lent is...
Well, where's the journey going to take me? I think I would just let my yoga journey take me where I want to. She did say, Kim Cavill, who is a yoga teacher and is coming on the podcast in a few weeks' time, which is great. So we can question her all about this as well. Apparently there's a really good app as well, which you kind of like to be able to dip in and find like hamstring mobility or something. If you've done a session, then you want to find some mobility or stretch, or if you're looking for a more like core workout. So hopefully that's sort of where it will lead to. But I kind of thought, do I want to go back into my strength program while I'm really stiff? Feels better to do this journey and really get the mobility back in my joints to then go back in. I don't need to rush back into weights. I'm as strong as an ox. I actually need to stretch and to move more. So I am enjoying that gratefully.
Lovely.
Keep you posted. And your comments have been noted on the Facebook group, and a few people have questioned where you are in this yoga journey. But
yeah, I hope you weren't going to mention that.
Because I know you always get FOMO, and no doubt very soon there'll be a yoga Strava activity.
Yeah, I'm not too sure why, nothing in particular. I just never engaged with it. I was so concentrated on not eating junk, so didn't have the bandwidth.
The other thing I gave up was Diet Coke.
Oh, goodness me.
Yeah. I've had the devil has tempted me a few times, Gary. We went out in between ski training. We took the kids for a burger on Saturday, and I would normally have a Diet Coke with my burger, and I had a lemonade, and I was pulled up by the kids who said, Mum, that's kind of cheating. And I said, why? That's not cheating. And they were like, do you feel it's cheating, Mum? And I was like, I do feel so. A very lovely friend took me out for lunch yesterday. I know, so many lunches. And I just had water. Oh, it doesn't cut through the mountain cheese in the same way. But there we go. I'm not feeling any better for that. I just feel sad every time I can't have one. But,
I wonder when you start introducing Diet Coke again, if you do.
Today, straight away. 30 pack. Maybe I just need to limit to weekends. That's what Bryn does. He has a fizzy pop at the weekend.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Bryn says he's given up the podcast for Lent, so we can say what we like. He thought that was hilarious. And in other news, in actual running related news, because this is a running podcast, I am back. Eddie's back. Resting heart rate 49, Gary. We are back in business. We are back in business. Feeling much better. Feeling pretty much now, apart from the tendons on the top of my feet and my ongoing arm aching, feeling pretty much ready to start going again. We're going to talk about at the end of the podcast about what the rest of the year holds.
Yeah. I don't even know myself.
People have to listen to the whole podcast to find out the teaser. Sorry,
Eddie, I talk about heart rates. Would a man and a woman of the same age, and assuming they're the same fitness, would their heart rates be level, or would a woman's heart rate be higher or lower than?
Well, Gary, it's interesting that you should ask that. The average adult male heart rate is between 70 and 72 beats.
What?
I Well, the average for adult women is between 78 and 82. The difference is largely accounted by the size of the heart, of course, which is typically smaller in females than in males.
That's quite a high number, isn't it, though, for an average heart rate? I didn't realize 70, whatever it was, you said 72 beats?
70 to 72 beats per men and 78 to 82 for women.
We're athletes, Eddie.
We're athletes, us. Talking about being an athlete, I did my first session this morning. Well, I did some strides last week. They were horrible, Gary. The top of my thighs has not had to work for so long to do a normal running cadence. So
did they get better, though, as I stride 4? Was it like, okay?
Yeah. It's just the first few when you're like, oh, come on. They got better. And so this morning I did my first session, 20 minutes warm up, longer and longer warm up as I get older and creakier. And then 1 minute on, 1 minute off for 20 minutes. That was the plan. But then my chosen route, if you are looking at the weather or have a skiing holiday booked or anything, you will know that we have no limited snow in the Alps. And what we do have is icy as hell, because it was really warm last week. Like proper, really warm. Last week I ski toured in a t-shirt, and yesterday it was like -10. What the hell? It was freezing and icy. Anyway, the track was like iced ruts. So I did 5 lots of 1 minutes uphill, and then I thought I like to do some downhill because I feel you can open up your stride with trail runners, practice running fast, downhill, uphill. Anyway, got to the downhill and the track was like lethal. I was like, I went over on my ankle a few times. So I thought, right, going to change this session a little bit. So every time there was a bit of flat and non-icy, I just did a little bit of fartlek. And then when I got back to the piece of track, I did 5 by 1 minute. And it actually worked really well because I was really well warmed up by then. Yeah. I managed to hit some 6-minute somethings. I just had a quick glance to see up my watch, and some snowshoers were heading out and enjoyed hearing me go.
6-minute mile, and that's dream kind of pace, that is.
Well, so 1 minute, Gary.
Yeah, still.
Downhill, 20%. On a ice track. No.
I fancy doing it just to, I don't know if it's a masochistic or what, but I fancy a 5K just to see where I'm at.
I'll say I don't fancy a 5K. But I was happy to come away from that, feeling stronger as the session went on. And I actually had to call time because I was like, oh, I could do another 5. But I was like, don't get greedy, Eddie. Right. Yes. Back off. Nice little cool down. And as I said to you before we started recording, now I do feel quite tired. So that's enough. That's enough for this week, but happy to have a little bit of focus, moving the legs a little bit quicker, and looking forward to moving the legs. No backpack, no massive 6 hours hiking. Looking forward to just running.
Yeah, sounds great.
Right, let's get down to you. Nitty gritty. You love the stats.
The nitty gritty. Well, it's quite a big week, actually. This Strava collects everything together. So total miles were 88, but 80 of those were running. So even still, it's we talked about the bars last week, just a little incremental shift up again, 20 hours of total exercise. But like I say, some of that was walking, so it wasn't all running. And 15,500 feet of elevation. And I never even made it on the Strava leaderboard. So
who are these people? We need to start deleting some people off this Strava group.
I need to filter. Maybe we just make a little separate leaderboard for me and you. But yeah, I thought 15,500 feet, nailed it. But no. And I did two quality sessions too, so it was good. I did 20 again. Basically, pretty much just under 5K for that last 20 minutes. And then, there's a bit downhill, there's a bit uphill, and there's a bit downhill again. So it's not just trying to find the perfect conditions. So I was okay with that. And then we did 4 times 8 minutes, a big hill, but the recovery was enormous. So I don't know. But then you work in different muscles. It definitely was working something different. And then on the Saturday, we went to the lakes. We did a really good run, actually. So we went to Blencathra, Hallsfell Ridge, which is the more exposed ridge, I suppose, for Bob Graham round people. Then we went down to the Blencathra Centre. So Lake 100 people will be familiar with that. Then we basically followed the track round and went up to Skiddaw, and then picked up the Bob Graham round route to Grickalva, up to Blencathra again from the backside, and down Doddick. So double Blencathra, so I think about 17 miles and about 8,000 feet of elevation. So very good, like Dragon's Back, that kind of stuff. all county tops prep. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Everybody suffered from DOMS though afterwards, which we've worked, but then I'm thinking, wow, Dragon's Back race, I really don't want to have DOMS the day
but
after.
that's massive. That's early season climbing.
That is a big, big, big day. I went to the gym twice. That was good. I only did one core session. Honestly, when I came back on Saturday, my plan was to do some sit-ups and stuff when I got back on Saturday after being in the lakes. I was shattered. There's no way.
You're not welcome in our yoga group then. These are just excuses.
I did some foam rolling and that kind of stuff and some ability work, but I just couldn't face doing anything.
Why would you think I'm going to do core work after that long run? Your core would be shot, be knackered.
I know. Well, yeah, you're right. Even the weights the next day.
Told you to do.
Yeah, basically Garmin always tells me what to do. But even the next day, the weight session wasn't really up to much. Yeah. I was so tired. Even because I mentioned last week, I'd increased the weight. I was quite smug. I thought, oh yes, I can lift a bit more this week. But then
it's okay to take it back down again. That's really important.
I did.
You did.
I tried it. I've lifted. I think I was doing 22.5 kilo dumbbells. I tried it. I did a couple, and I thought, well, no, I need to be hitting kind of 8 of these. So yeah, I'm not going to just kill myself. So I dropped them back down to the 20s, and that was good. I jumped on the scales. I've got these Garmin Index scales where it does all your water. I love all it. And it said I'd put on weight, which I'm not kind of indifferent in that, but that wasn't the number that I wanted to really see, I suppose. But then when I dug into the details, my muscle mass has increased. So
people have noted, haven't they? Gary down gym.
Yeah, so that was good. And I think I'm not too sure if somebody else jumps on the scales, I'm not too sure how accurate they are, but they are consistent with you. So
why do you need them? What does it tell you?
Well, once a couple of weeks, I'll jump on the scales. I just do. Don't know why. Just do it.
The only thing we use our scales for is the 23 kg flight EasyJet cabin bag, and then we have to be like, where are they? And I use them a lot for spine bag weight in the initial stages, and then I decided I wasn't going to wear it anymore because it was.
Oh yeah, I need to do that because I didn't order them actually, but for the Dragon's Back race, you've got to order their drop bags.
Yeah.
So I need to get on with that, and then start weighing stuff as I'm popping it in the bag. I've been running again, a few more miles. They're a bit dirty this week. I've got them out for prep. The G270, the Innovate Trail Flies version 2. And that extra padding, that is a real welcome introduction over a few more miles on the trails. That was good. And I definitely feel there's a bit more room in the toe box. So good. And these are a 0 drop shoe. And personally, I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you're on the trails, I don't feel that is as important maybe as if you're doing a road marathon and you've got this flat surface to hit. But I don't really notice any difference.
No, because I've got some 0 drop. If I put them on, then my Achilles the next day.
Even on trails, you notice that?
Yeah. I don't get on with them.
Oh, that's interesting. But,
different strokes.
Yeah, it's true. Would you normally be a heel striker though? Because I think I do come down on my forefoot.
Oh, I just slam my feet, Gary. Again, like the scales, I just slam my feet. I don't.
Grip is fine though. So for most days, some guy had them on the weekend on the Bob Graham round over the bogs. He said they were fine. Maybe personally, if it's really boggy, I'd go for more like a mud claw shoe. And I'm turning a bit of a protein rebel dealer. I'm dishing out gels on the trails. And the feedback is good, so that's good. And I'm pretty sure at least 2 of them. And I know someone who's bought some collagen too. So interesting to hear their feedback. Talking about collagen, I've had a couple of people reach out because we mentioned that I think the evidence is there's not much research being done on it, but people slipped into my DMs with a few links to studies, and I'll pop them in the notes of the podcast. And if I remember to, I'll pop them on the Facebook group. So you can read that. And I
think it's like if you love something, then I had quite a few people going, oh yes, I've used it. It's changed.
Yeah. Really enthusiastic about it. People who swear by it. So there's a study from over in Australia, and then the people from Protein Rebel, they shared some of their. It's not research they've done, but it's papers they've examined when they've been developing the products. Feel okay? All in all, a pretty solid Dragon's Back race week of training. Oh, that was a tongue twister.
We should say everybody loved our interview with Ellis Bland last week, and he has very kindly sent us some Vaga hats, of which Gary put on. He sent us, he was asking which one, oh my gosh, which one I'd like, and then Gary's chosen his, and I think it rather suits Gary.
You like it?
You carry it off. I'm not sure I carry off.
I could grow the Freddie Mercury.
Oh my gosh, you're going to become Ellis, watch out. Moving on, soon we're going to be recording our next round of Brew with Your Coaches. So now's the chance. We're putting that together over the next couple of weeks. Jump over onto Patreon, splurge £4 and get that question answered. You've been pondering on your long run for months. No subject too deep or question is too tricky for us and Trish and Russell. In fact, we like something that would perhaps create some debate or discussion. So pop over there. Gary's going to put a post up and ask away your questions, and we shall work our way through those over the next few weeks. Yeah.
And if you already are Patreon, just email in to hello@teaandtrails.com.
This week, we chat to Flora Beverley. You might know Flora from her YouTube channel over on Instagram or TikTok. She was telling us all about that too, under Food Fitness Flora. She's in training for the Silva Lakes Traverse 100K, her first 100K. We talk all about her journey into running, her YouTube channel. It's a lovely, honest, in-depth and very smiley chat with Flora Beverley.
Hi, Flora. Thanks for coming on the Tea and Trails podcast, deep into Silva Lakes Traverse training. But I have seen that you're nursing a poorly ankle. How are you doing? How's your ankle?
It's okay. I'm actually going to try my first run today in a week, and fingers crossed that goes well. I was originally thinking it was a stress fracture, but it's got better so quickly from just doing nothing that I'm thinking it's not a stress fracture and is a tendon problem. But currently I'm in denial, so I'm just going to go for a run and just hope for the best.
Did you feel it happen? Was there a moment, did something tripped or rolled an ankle, or you just pulled up sore one day?
It was basically the start of one of my runs. I had a really sharp pain in my ankle, and it was right at the very beginning. And I thought, this is weird because it wasn't there on the run that I'd done the day before. But then I kind of rolled the ankle a little bit, did a couple of stretches, did some mobility, continued my run, and it kind of warmed up into it, and it was sort of fine. And the next run, it was bad for the first kilometer and then got a bit warmer and then was fine. And then the next run, it was like in the first mile, it was painful, and basically just got worse and worse and worse, but would still get better on each run until the point that it didn't get better on each run. And that was when I was like, okay, I think I have a problem.
It's a classic, isn't it? It's such a classic. It gets better, and then almost you forget about it, and then you go finish your run and you carry on with life. And then when you start running again, you're like, oh no, you're still there, like an annoying friend.
Yeah, it's a bitch. Honestly, I'm so angry at it because I think we have this thing with the runners that, like, if it doesn't hurt whilst running, then it surely can't be a running injury.
Fine. Broken arm.
That's just not how it works.
Fine, as long as it doesn't hurt when you're running.
Did you manage to do your race? I know you had a race booked up. Was it Lowe's? Cool. Did you manage to do that or not?
No, I mean, that was pretty much like when it was the worst. So a few days before, I'd had to pull up on a interval session, and then I couldn't like walk for the rest of the day. So I was like, no point doing a 48K race, at the expense of the actual race that I've got booked. You know, it's a training run at the end of the day. And although I was really excited to go, because I love running on the Jurassic Coast, it's like my favorite place to run, I was like, there's no point doing that and then not actually being able to continue my training. So I'm trying to be sensible, basically, which is something that comes naturally to runners.
It is super hard. It is super hard to be sensible. How then have you supplemented your training? Have you hit the bike or just been on the gym more?
Yeah, so I mean, I always do gym work. I'm a massive advocate for strength training, and my background is not really in running at all, as I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later. But I used to do loads of stuff in the gym, and then I started running, and then I was like, oh, I can't keep up both. And I was like, actually, no, because I kept getting injured. I was like, actually, if I just do all the gym stuff, then I can do the running as well. And they kind of supplement each other rather than taking away from each other. So yeah, this last week I've been to the gym 4 times, which is amazing for me. Did 3 spin sessions. I hate cycling, which probably is not very relatable to a lot of your listeners, but I absolutely hate it. I find it really boring. It makes me want to cry. But I did 20-minute sessions 3 times last week, and I just put on like a YouTube spin, easy spin thing. And like, honestly, easy spin. My heart rate was like 160 average for the whole 20 minutes. I was like, why am I so bad at cycling? But it probably was working on some weaknesses that I have.
I think that's YouTube. I think that's YouTube videos, because I started doing yoga and it's like easy, relaxing flow yoga. And I'm like, is this a joke?
What We're going to break.
Where's the break? When do we lie down and do the breathing?
I'm so impressed with your YouTube and yoga videos, Eddie. It's been really good, inspiring our community. Yeah, you mentioned we'd probably talk about your background. If we could rewind, actually, your background, And then your journey into running, that would be amazing to find out.
I was sort of the person at school who was like always picked last for being a teammate in PE. Yeah. And like, if there was anything I could do to miss it, I would. But then age 15, we were allowed to take up a sport that wasn't like hockey, netball, rounders, right? And there were squash courts. And I was like, oh, I'll take up squash. Like, that looks fun. And it turns out I'm just really bad at team sports, which is like a really embarrassing thing to say, because I feel like, you know, everyone wants to be a team player. I am not a team player. I'm really bad at it. So I took up squash age 15 and got quite good quite quickly, which, considering I was not a fit person, is actually kind of miraculous. And I played for 3 years. 3 years. I went to the National Schools Championships when I was 17.
You didn't just get good, you got amazing.
No, I got completely trounced in the quarterfinals or whatever by someone. I think she was like the under 18s in the under 18s team for Malaysia, and she was so good. I was on the court. I promise I did play. I'm not just making it up. And I was just standing there and she was just hitting the ball. And I was like, if anyone's played it before, like if it goes into the back corner, there's no space for your racket to swing. And it would just plop there every single time, just perfectly. And I was just standing there laughing like, I'm just going to go home. I'm really sorry. This is a waste of your time.
When I first started working, I remember that my boss played squash, and I thought it would be a good thing to be friends with the boss and play squash. Thought I'd take him out. I thought youth would win over experience, but my goodness me, he just stayed still and pinged that squash ball right into that back corner every time. I was rinsed. It was unbelievable. So demoralizing. Yeah,
squash is one of those things that you play smarter, not harder. But I could always outwork people in squash. Don't think I was very good, but I was very fast. And I loved just bouncing around the court like the ball. I had a great time. And I mean, that was kind of it. I was like, oh, sports doesn't have to be miserable. It can actually be really fun. And it was also something that I found for myself rather than something that was sort of imposed on me, which I think a lot of school sports is like, you do this, and if you're not good at this, you're not good at sports. But that's
girls, the team games, you either like them or you don't, and there's nothing. It's really hard to find something in between, isn't it?
Exactly. So I was really lucky that we had access to that. And then when I left, obviously no more squash, but I kind of did a bit of running here and there, but not really. And then I took up boxing.
Lovely uni sport journey.
Boxing was great, good for getting out anger. I also have a habit of taking up stuff that is traditionally like very male dominated. I mean squash is entirely just like old white men. Boxing is entirely male dominated pretty much as well. And I don't know what it is that attracts me to these sports, but it was really cool to do. And again, it was another one that I started off kind of just doing group sessions, and then I got into sort of pad work, and then I did a bit of sparring, and then I was asked to do my first fight, and I was like, no, I can't do that. Then obviously like the next day I said yes, because that's just who I am. And then I was asked to do another one after that one, and I said yes to that one, and they both went really well. So I was like, oh, maybe this is my sport. And then lockdown hit.
Okay.
Don't leave the boxing yet. I want to know, like, so you actually fought people and
had a
hit
proper
people.
fight.
You had a proper
so I did. I only did 2 fights, but they were both white collar boxing, which is kind of like, rather than to try and knock someone out, it's for points. So it's about sort of technique, and I mean, you still get punched in the face, don't get me wrong, but like it's really fun, and both of them were for charity as well. So I kind of felt like I was doing a good thing as well as doing something that I absolutely love.
And you weren't terrified? Because I would be like, no, run.
Don't hurt me.
I couldn't do it. The thought of standing there and like, if there'd be the fight or flight situation, maybe I could do a fight, but actually to think about it and actually get in a ring, no way on earth would I do that.
But like with running, I mean, that's what the training's for, you know, like, yes, your initial reaction is to cry, to curl up in a ball, or to run away. Or at least that was mine. But after a while, I was kind of like, actually, you know what? If you just sort of dampen that side of your brain, it can be really fun. So it's just about kind of shifting your mindset of like, oh, someone's trying to punch me in the face, to actually, I can punch someone else in the face. And that's okay, because they signed up to be in the ring with me. And it's like the only place in the world where that's allowed and actively encouraged.
And was this what I'm really curious? The white collar boxing, you have to do the weigh-in and everything, or like a normal boxing match?
Yeah, so we did the weigh-in. I actually, this wasn't very good for me because I don't think I was eating enough for the intensity of training that I was doing. So I started at a certain weight, and then through the training, and that was when I was put against my opponent, and then through the training lost like 4 kilos or something outrageous like
That's
that.
quite a lot, isn't
and
it?
I didn't really have 4 kilos to lose. And I was desperately trying to eat enough, but I just don't think I'd really clocked that actually you kind of have to eat constantly. And yeah, by the time I got to my fight, the girl that I was fighting was 2 weight categories heavier than me. So it was a complete disaster in that sense, but still held my own, I guess. And it was actually a big learning curve because during training for one of them, I was asked to do right after one of them, I was asked to do Tokyo Marathon. So I came off the back of all this training for boxing and then went into marathon training, and my body just hadn't had enough time to recover. So I went into marathon training, having never raced even like a 10K in my life, right? With 10 weeks to go until the marathon, trying to desperately train for this, but my body was already so depleted that by the time I got round to the marathon, I was like emaciated, not actually emaciated, but like, not in a good place for me. And I was already injured by that point. So there was a steep learning curve of like, actually, when you're doing these really high intensity sports, you just kind of need to eat constantly.
Oh, it's constant, yeah.
So, and that took me up to 2019, which is when I did Tokyo Marathon. And that was the first time I'd ever actually trained consistently for running.
I went to watch England play in the World Cup in Tokyo, and it blew my mind, Tokyo. How did you find it?
I mean, the whole city was incredible. Unfortunately, because I was taken out there by a brand, we didn't have very much time either side, and I didn't really think to extend my time there. So I think we were only there for like 5 days or something, which for it being the other side of the world is quite intense. Yeah. We arrived, I was like hugely jet lagged, but I was desperately trying to see everything as well because there is so much to see and it is massive. I mean, even coming from London, which is where I was born, like Tokyo, I was like, my brain can't comprehend how big this place is. It was incredible.
I don't think people realize unless they physically go there how big. I remember staying in a hotel and just looking out over the city at night, and it just never ended. It was absolutely. Yeah. And what does 9 to 5 look like for you? Day-to-day life. Am I right in thinking being a content creator on the various platforms, that is your full-time job?
Yeah, that's my full-time job. I also have a brand. So I own Leo's Box, which it's effectively like Costco, but good for the planet. So what we do is we sell sustainable home and skincare products at a fraction of the price that they are retailed for elsewhere. And the whole ethos is trying to get sustainability to be more accessible for people, monetarily actually more accessible, because people want to do the right thing, but I think they go to the shops and then they see the price difference between something that's sustainable and something that's, the Asda home brand or whatever, and they go for the one that's cheap. I mean, like, that's entirely unsurprising. But what we want to do is say, like, if you do want to shop sustainably, here is where you can buy the things. On average, we sell them 40% off, up to 70% off. So it is quite a big price difference. So I run that brand.
And how do people access it? Is it like a subscription service, or you just go into a website and purchase?
Yeah, so we have the website, which is kind of like a curated collection of products. But if you sign up as a member, which is from £3 a month, that gets you access to all the discounts. So if you sign up for a member for a year, basically it pays for itself within a couple of orders. If you sign up for a month, it's £4, and you can get that back in one order because of the discounts that are available. So yeah.
Sounds like our Patreon, Eddie. Sign up for £3 a month.
I've gone deep into it already. I'm afraid you guys are just gonna. The bamboo electric toothbrush head. I've been thinking about that there must be, as I just redid all of our toothbrush heads, and I was like, oh, this plastic, there must be a better way to do this, and there is.
Yeah, it's new. It came out, I think, last summer, and we stocked it straight away because I have a toothbrush that I just hate having to chuck out the plastic every single time. And previously I was using a bamboo toothbrush, but obviously you want to be able to clean your teeth well. There shouldn't have to be a compromise, and now there's a better solution.
I don't suppose you ship to France, do you?
No, sorry.
It's a real struggle, isn't it, to send things overseas?
If I translate it into French...
Send it to me, Eddie. Put it on the pile, Eddie. We'll get it sent to me.
Gary's got an enormous pile of stuff that no one wants to ship to France. It's just over the channel.
I know.
Now,
it does make it slightly less sustainable if we have to fly it over every so often.
I get that. So don't worry. I'll do an order. Go to Gary. Gary's going to go to Bryn. We're going to make it all work via train.
Oh my goodness me. It's like Bryn smacked all these people involved in this transaction to get it overseas.
Dedication. I appreciate it.
Theo's box is called Go and Have a Look, everybody. Oh my gosh. It's lovely. And it's not only like got some excellent ideas, but the layout, Flora, is beautiful. It's wonderful. Oh gosh, I'm leaving it open. I'm gonna go back to that. Just pretend.
Before I joined this podcast, I have a very small YouTube channel, and we put the content, the podcast actually on that YouTube channel now, so it's being used that way. But yeah, mine is tiny. Your YouTube presence is quite large. Was there a moment where, I don't know, you created a video and it was like something happened? There was generated some momentum with your channel. Was there a standout video for you that maybe went viral?
A couple of them have done pretty well. None of them have gone viral per se, but I don't really think there's like a cutoff point at which it's viral versus just done really well. My Tokyo Marathon training did do pretty well. And I think that's because I'd come from a background of not doing any running or any specific run training. And then I was training for this marathon that so many people want to do. And I think that sort of starting from scratch and then going to have this big goal is quite relatable for a lot of people. Whereas what I do now, which is training for ultras, I mean, like most people don't do ultra marathons, whereas marathon training is something that a lot of people want to do. So it kind of started off with that, but it hasn't always been running focused because I haven't always been running focused. So it's kind of shifted with me, which I really like. And I really appreciate that people still watch, whether they are from a running background or not.
That's the beauty of a successful sort of social media platform is, one, I think you have to be true to yourself. Otherwise people soon spot that an imposter is still real. I think that's why people invest in it as well, is that you're true and you're real. Sometimes I get told off by Gary, or heavily edited, because I am too honest, not real. But Laura, I'm sure that's why people really love following your video. You're totally real. And do you sometimes find that quite hard to share the ups and downs, or?
Yeah and no. I find it much harder not to be real. I mean, it's easier to just tell people my actual life story than to try and make up some sort of like rose-tinted view of myself. I find that very difficult. I'm not a good actor, so there you go. But having said that, yeah, I do actually feel a bit of pressure to remain positive, and because I am such a positive person. But like when you do ultra training and ultra marathon races, sometimes you feel like shit and you want to die, and it's sometimes really helpful to share that with people. So when I did a ultra in Croatia last year, and on the fourth day I basically hadn't been able to eat pretty much the whole day before, which was like a 12-hour day. So then we got out again for the fourth day, which was my last day, but it was also the longest day of the whole thing. And I ran out of, I guess I bonked essentially, which it's never happened to me before because I'm very good at eating. But I got to this stage and I just couldn't move anymore. And you know, when you get to that position, your mindset is awful. Like you're not that positive person that you usually are. You're just like, everything is miserable. Everything is awful. You don't want to be there. You want someone to come pick you up in a helicopter because there's no other way off the mountain.
You're so rude. Well, I am always so rude.
Yeah. So I was just an awful person. Lay down to have a nap on the side of the trail, hoped that would help. Had a little nap, woke up, had a gel, which was a big risk for me because I hadn't been able to stomach anything up to that point. But the gel meant that I could get up the hill that I'd lain down at the bottom of. But then I was crying. I was just not having a great time. And I didn't really want to share it with people. My initial instinct was, okay, I need to get over this crying so that I can then talk to people and tell people what's happened. But then I was like, and I kind of did stop eventually. I did stop crying eventually. And then I started filming. But as I was filming, I was sort of tearing up again. And I was like, you know what, actually, this is the reality of multi-day ultras and of when things don't go right and when you cock up your nutrition because you've not done anything this long before. And people kind of need to know that. And I think it's unrealistic to only share the good stuff because then when that happens to someone else in a race, they're like, why can't I handle this like everyone that I watch on YouTube handles it? And I'm like, no. If they're not showing their bad things, that doesn't mean that their bad things aren't happening. And like, I think that about everyone else. And yeah, I wasn't sharing my bad stuff. And so I thought at that point, it was actually really important to share. So I do find it quite difficult, and I try not to share the negative things. But then sometimes actually that's just the reality of training. And I think it is useful to share that.
Yeah, it is super, especially when you have a platform, when you don't feel like showing up, it is very important to share that. Do you ever get any pushback? I know yours is like a vlog, so you give maybe a lot more of your opinions, possibly in your content. I'm very mindful not to stray too far from the fence when I voice my opinions about things, just because I don't really want to have that debate with people.
Yeah.
About yourself.
Yeah. That's very relatable. I have a lot more opinions than I used to think that I had. Most of them are to do with sustainability. And I sort of always just thought, well, there's a sensible way of thinking and there's everyone else's way of thinking. And then I realized that actually my way of thinking is, in some people's eyes, quite extreme. Like, I'm vegan. I get messages from people. If I mention that I'm tired, I'll get people saying, "Oh, it's because you're vegan." And I'm like,
it's okay.
No. I've been vegan for 5 years. I haven't been tired for 5 years.
Yeah.
Probably more to do with the fact that I'm doing really intense training weeks. And I get messages like that. And then, for example, when I was running in the Brecon Beacons, I was talking about how I don't understand in a national park how they can let sheep everywhere because sheep essentially destroy ecosystems. My background's in biology, so I actually feel very passionately about that.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning that, and everyone was like, "Love the vlog, don't appreciate the preaching about sheep."
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, like these are my opinions. This is my YouTube channel. Like, by all means, if you have different opinions, you can set up your own YouTube channel and share them. Like, I'm not going to stop you. And also, I appreciate that different people have different opinions, but I think it's unrealistic to expect people not to share theirs. But like you, sometimes it's not worth the bother.
Do you jump on to comments like that, or do you just let them?
No, I have my toxic trait is thinking that I can change people's minds. So I spend a lot of time explaining to people why I feel the way I feel. Okay. Yeah. So when you ask about my 9 to 5, that's it. That's entirely it.
Replying to
I read
YouTube
about
comments.
like some people that people that are really in the public gaze saying, I never read comments. I never read the comments. And then I often wonder, like, because I read everything that's written about me or people write. I'm like, would I be strong enough to not read comments that people write and then not to get upset or react to them? Gary, you're quite reactive, aren't you?
I'm really reactive. But actually, most people are very respectful in the comments that they write. And if they disagree with me, they explain why they disagree with me. And I think that's the sort of person that I attract to my channel. And like, I'm perfectly happy to have a good conversation about, the potential benefits of having sheep in national parks or whatever it is. And so long as people are respectful, I'm kind of happy to have those conversations, because I do actually find the whole topic like really interesting.
And I think if you come from a background of education, like your point of view is founded on research and knowledge, you feel you can stand up. And I think it's people perhaps don't have that it then starts to crumble a little bit, doesn't it?
100%. Yeah, if I'm not 100% sure about something and someone questions me, I feel a bit panicked because I don't like being wrong. And if I think I've put out bad information as well, I get really antsy, because most of the stuff that I put out, I try and have some sort of study to back it up. Even if I don't share that study, I want to make sure that I'm not giving people bad information. Up to this point, actually, I haven't really shared like a lot of information about strength training or nutrition, that kind of stuff, because I'm not a personal trainer, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a running coach, but I do really enjoy reading primary literature and all of those things. And recently I've started sharing a bit of stuff here and there with references, because the information is not coming from me, it's coming from scientists and people who know a lot better than I do.
I've gone on this little bit of a journey taking collagen as a supplement, and people are asking me about it, and I don't know anything about the science, but yes, I've luckily a few people have shared a few papers that does point to some science or opinion at least anyway. So yeah, it's always good to back it up, because I was really worried that it was a one-on-one experiment with me and people would ask me if it was working or not, and I didn't really feel qualified enough to properly answer it, because what was working for me might not work for somebody else. But yeah, it's good to be out there. point to something else. Again, from a YouTube creating point of view, something I really struggled with is training, say, a structured workout and creating content. How do you do that?
I struggle, honestly. But the good thing about running 6 times a week is that you have lots of opportunities to create content. Previously, I tried to record a variety of different runs. More recently, I tend to just share my long runs because I'm not trying to push for pace. I'm basically just going to a beautiful place and having a good time. And in those runs, I feel a lot more able to share bits and bobs of what I'm doing. When I'm doing an interval session, last thing I want to do in my break between reps is talk to the camera. So I don't really share those ones anymore. And my short runs are really boring and ugly and, just city runs. So I tend not to share those either. And in the longer ones, if I'm out for 3 hours and I'm filming, I'll probably only film like half an hour, 40 minutes maybe overall total. Yeah. So actually a lot of it is not being filmed, and a lot of it is just me out having a jolly, basically.
I used to, so I'd have that same idea. I think I'll do this big long run at the lakes. I'll spend half an hour creating content, but then I'd see something that I thought was interesting. So then I'd film that for 5 minutes, and then I'd put the camera away, the drone away, whatever. Then I'd run a little bit more. Then, that I'd like to share that with people. Then before you, this 3-hour run turns into a 6-hour run.
Yeah.
Or more of a walk.
With me, what I tend to do is film little bits here and there. And then if I get tired, I'll just put my head down and focus. But I always have my GoPro in the front of my running pack. So it is always easily accessible. I think your YouTube sounds a lot higher budget than mine. Mine's very low budget, like home video.
I don't think high budget and Gary go together. That is
all the gear and no idea. I think.
Oh yeah, he did have a drone, but don't worry. In its first flight, it went in the sea.
Went in the sea.
He wasn't.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks for that.
No, but
on my
then
birthday too.
No, but it's a great story, Flora, because it went in the sea, but then somebody what were they, scattering their grandpa's ashes or something?
Yeah, they went to the local seaside. Yeah, they went to scatter their grandpa's ashes, or went to visit where they'd scattered the ashes. I can't remember exactly what it is. And my drone washed up at their feet, as they thought they'd lost their drone. Yeah, and they got reunited with this.
It back.
Yeah.
They didn't,
but it didn't work. It didn't.
No, but the story. Don't say that. Just finish with it.
It's the thought that counts.
But what really freaked me out, I got this Facebook message from somebody who I didn't know, asking me about this drone and this, and I was thinking, my goodness me, because that's right, the memory card was in the drone, so they could access some images. So I was being presented with pictures of me on this Facebook Messenger. I just thought, what the hell is going on here? Yeah. There were two police officers. A good job there was nothing dodgy on there.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. For sure.
Right, let's move on to running. So we've got to Tokyo Marathon. How do you then progress into trail and ultra running? Because now actually you're training for the Lakes Traverse, which is huge, 10,000 feet, 100K. How did that come about from the marathon? Where did the inspiration come for that?
So, as I alluded to, in Tokyo Marathon, I got injured, got IT band syndrome on both my legs.
Oh no!
Goodness me!
Impressive. The one of them had been in the training in the lead up, and then the other one was about kilometer 8 of the marathon. So that was disastrous. I pretty much crawled the last 2 kilometers. So it wasn't my finest moment, but because of that, and I genuinely believe this, that I think was a blessing in disguise, because the only running that I could do in the lead up for long runs and then afterwards was trail running, because the impact on my joints and my ligaments and everything was significantly less than when I was pounding the pavement. And so every weekend I would look forward to my trail runs here in Bristol. I was living in London at the time, but my partner was here in Bristol finishing his PhD. So I was basically traveling back between London and Bristol and really looking forward to my trail runs. And I never actually thought I would ever look forward to running. So this was a surprise to me. And it was just like mentally very freeing, especially as being a very competitive person. Previously, I'd constantly been looking at my times and at my watch and seeing, is every run faster than the one before? Because obviously when you first start running, quite often every run is faster than the one before. Yeah. but I was getting to a stage where actually I was kind of getting slower because I was getting fatigued and I was getting injured, blah, blah, blah. But going on the trails, you don't have any of that problem because it's always going to be slow. So that was what got me into trail running in the first place. And I love spending time outdoors. So it was a no-brainer for me. And then lockdown hit. And I spent 8 months down in Dorset on the Jurassic Coast, which...
Heaven.
Yeah. I mean, obviously lockdown, not heaven, but the place where I had to do it was heavenly. Usually the Jurassic Coast is filled with tourists, but for those 8 months, it was empty. And honestly, I have such good memories of just going out every day or every other day and just pootling about, not having anywhere that I needed to be, not even knowing where I'm going to go, but just heading out and just having a great time. And I was getting kind of some good training in. I was supposed to be doing the London Landmarks half in that March. So I was already coming off the back of quite a lot of half marathon training. So I went in quite fit, and then I was just running for fun. And then it got to August, I think. And my friend who works for a company called Ultra X asked if I wanted to do Ultra X England, the 50-kilometer one up in the Peak District. And I was like, yes, obviously, anything to get me out and just like onto the trails is a winner for me. So I went up there, camped the night before, went and raced it. I mean, the longest run I'd done in the lead up to that was, I think, about 25 kilometers.
Oh, wow.
So I was fully underprepared. But I went out and I just had such a good time. And I think I came like 5th woman. So I was like, not nearly as bad. I mean, I didn't think I was going to be able to complete it, but I was like, worst case scenario, I just have a great day out on the trails in the Peak District. Like, honestly, it doesn't get better than that for me. So yeah, and then I did way better than expected. So I was like, oh, maybe this is my thing. And obviously that post-run high meant that I signed up for another one that was literally a month later, down on the Jurassic Coast again, having never done anything like this before. And the next one was, down in Lulworth. It was a Maverick one, and Lulworth is gorgeous, which is why I wanted to go back last weekend. And did 48 kilometers down there. Again, did way better than I expected. Managed to take off like an hour from my time up in the Peak District.
Oh, amazing.
And then I was like, actually, you know what, maybe this is my thing. And then I was thinking, like, the response I got to the videos I did for those was immense, because so many women don't sign up for ultras because they think they're not going to be capable of it. And there's loads of evidence about this. Like, men sign up to things that they think they might be able to complete. Women won't sign up unless they are sure they're going to be able to complete them. And that difference is why you see such a big difference in start line men versus women. Like, on average, I think it's about 25% women, which has gone up considerably in the last few years. But
8 women on the UTMB.
It's for everything, isn't it? I think from jobs to races, men will sign up for things they maybe aren't qualified for or prepared for, but think they can do. I don't know what the psychology is behind that.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I was kind of like, if I can share to people that I'm doing these things fully unprepared, then maybe they can train a little bit and do them as well. And also, I was trying to just show that it was a hell of a lot of fun, because I don't think people want to go out and beast themselves and have a miserable time. I think people want to go out and have a great time on the hills. And that was exactly what happened to me. And it was not at all what I'd expected. I thought it was basically going to be like Tokyo Marathon, but longer. And it just wasn't. It's a completely different sport. And I loved it. I had so much fun.
I love the trails. It's that when you find the trails, it's like a revelation. It's like, my goodness me, all this was going on. I knew nothing about it. It's quite fascinating. I love it.
How
did you find Lakes Traverse? How did that flash up on your radar?
So I've always wanted to do a race in the Lake District. I've done a training weekend there before, but never actually raced there. And like I mentioned, I love trails. I love hilly trails, especially because it means I can walk. I love walking and I hate running. So, but yeah, I heard about that one and the Northern Traverse. I can't remember. I think it was social media just like popping up and
classic.
Yeah,
you're to blame. You people, you social media. Someone makes it look nice and fun and sunny, and you sign up, and then you're like, you lied.
That's me. That's what I do.
Since I've started talking about Dragon's Back race, Facebook knows. Every time I turn it on, it's listening. It's just fueling it. It's amazing.
I know, but it's good because it gets me out for the training, because I get excited to do the race. I love I love racing. I'm actually a really competitive person.
Oh, we get that. We've got that. We take that box, Flora, in the punching, in the boxing chat. Gary and I are both like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, but like, you know what? I feel like I have to say it because I think for women, it's seen as quite an unattractive trait that women are not supposed to be, you know, trying hard at things. They're not supposed to be like sweating and trying to push to the front and all this kind of stuff. It's seen as really unattractive. And I realize not everyone is competitive, so this is not going to be relatable for a lot of people. But for a long time, I tried to share that like I didn't really care how I did. But the reality is that I do care, and not compared to other people, more just compared to myself, and seeing how far I can push myself and seeing how hard I can try and still come out the other end having a good time. And I think women don't really share a lot of that stuff. So I kind of feel the need to overcompensate for everyone else by being like super overtly like out there and competitive.
So have you managed to get out on the course? Have you recce'd any?
No, not yet. So there was supposed to be a recce this coming weekend, but I think the sign-up numbers were too low for them to go ahead, which is a real shame because I could really do with someone else kind of, I don't know, walking me through it.
Yeah, so helpful, yeah.
Yeah, but I've never done a race where I've actually recce'd. Like I am relatively new to the sport still. I only did my first ultra at the end of 2020. So this is kind of like my second full year of training, really. So I've never actually done a race where I've gone out and recce'd it, but I fully intend to start doing that because after Lakes Traverse, I've got Ultra Trail Snowdonia, which I feel like is one that you really do want to recce.
Which distance?
Yeah. Only 50.
Only 50, no. And I would say, yeah, I think for the Traverse, if you don't get up to see the course, then you just look at it like it's great because every corner I'm going to get to, it's going to be a new view. I don't think there's anything like that anything that you're going to find that is going to overface you in some ways. You know, it's going to be a joy. You're going to be like, oh, look at this.
I was checking the course out and it's beautiful. I suppose probably the hardest, from my point of view, the hardest point would be maybe from Patterdale to Kidsty Pike, which might be about 5K of climbing all in all. But then you drop down to Haweswater, which I really hope you got a lovely day because that place it's pretty quiet. You know, I don't know how many people will be around you on race day. Not very nice underfoot to run, but Haweswater Reservoir is absolutely stunning. And then you've got, so where you do Grisdale Tarn too, so you'll have all the Helvellyn Range. Really, really magical course. I really do hope, I've been there on some dreadful days. I hope you get a good sunny day with a nice westerly pushing you along.
But UTS, 50K, I'd say. I know they've changed the route this year and they've taken out one of the ridges, which was a little bit scrambly. But I would say, that route, if you know that route, it would just take a lot of oh my goodness, are we going up there? Yeah. Are we coming down there? Sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
And knowledge is power, isn't it? And knowledge can take away the fear of once you know what's around the corner. But if you can't recce, I always think it's not look at it, turn it into a positive.
I'm not too sure if I'm going to actually recce Dragon's Back race at all, to be honest. Just the geography of the journey. So it's not the end of the world. But maybe a little trip to Patterdale and to Haweswater and back might be worth it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would love to be able to do that. It's just finding the time to do that as well.
And then recce logistics can be But yeah.
I mean, it's one of the reasons why I love doing races is because it means that I can explore a new place without having to plan my own route, plan my own transport. You know, you've got water along the way. You don't have to deal with all of those things. It's one of the reasons why I actually do races. Even if I'm not going to race them, I just sort of go out and have a good time supported.
Do you manage to look up though? Sometimes I feel with races, I enjoy the recce's more because I get to appreciate where I'm at, and the race itself sometimes the pass is in a blur.
I feel like you might be a bit faster than me though, so.
Oh, he's not. Don't worry, Flora. He's not.
It's all a front.
It's all a front. Me and James, we were talking about that because we recce'd the second half of the Spine race and we were saying that was so much fun. We had so much fun compared to the actual race. The recce's are often the bit where you can actually talk and have fun.
No, that's true. That's true. I need to find some people to go with.
Yes, you do. Hey guys, if you're doing it, Flora's there, shout her up.
Hit me up.
Hit her up. Slide into
I'm there
her
most
DMs.
weekends, actually.
I wish I'd never said slide into my DMs, because so many people then slid into my DMs, and I was like, oh no, I can't keep up with this. So Flora, how have you gone about like writing your plan for this? Did you grab a coach, or have you just gone with your own training? And how's it going?
Good question. So previously I was trained by Holly Rush, Holly Stables now, and that was incredible. She trained me for my 5K time trial that I did back in 2021.
I saw that on YouTube, actually.
No, I saw that's how I knew about Flora, because I followed that. I invested far too much time in someone I didn't know trying to be that 5K.
Did you watch both of them?
Yeah, I loved it.
Oh, that is some dedication. Thank you.
That was great.
So I did that, and then went on. She trained me for MCC, which is it's the shortest UTMB race, or the second shortest UTMB race, at 40 kilometers. And then after that point, I sort of self-coached for like the whole of last year, pretty much. And then this year, and for the 10K time trial that I did at the end of last year, I'm trying sort of proof of concept with a coaching app, which is called Runner, Runna. And it's a relatively new thing. So for the 10K, it was great. I feel like with road running, you can really sort of put it in an equation and come out with a plan.
Prescriptive. It's prescriptive, isn't it?
Exactly.
Do this will equal that.
Yeah, 100%. And they've recently launched their ultra training plans, and they have everything from 50K, or actually mountain marathon, all the way up to 250K multi-day ultra.
So who's behind the Runner app? Who's working behind the scenes?
So the main coach is Steph Davis, who's marathoner, really knows what she's talking about. And then there's Ben Parker as well, who I think is also a running coach. And then they have a physio side of things. There's Aidan from the Irish Physio, and he is great because it's got loads of information about like what sort of exercises you should be doing outside of your running, and if you've got concerns you can message him and all that kind of stuff. So I think
it looks really great. I'm just looking and I like the format of it. It looks super simple to follow. It's just got your weeks, it's sort of color coded, it's got day by day breakdown.
Do you know what it costs, Flora? Do you remember the price for it to subscribe?
I think it's $15.99 a month. Or you can get it for the whole year, which I think is probably worth doing actually, because then you can get your training in between races set for you as well. Like there is things like baseline training. You don't have to be training for something in particular, which I think is quite nice, because I think a lot of people just stop training entirely between races, and that might not be the best thing.
I love an app. The first time I trained for a marathon, I think it was Hal Higdon's app. And for someone who has no knowledge whatsoever, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I think with the ultra plans, they're still kind of shifting things a little bit. And I've given a lot of feedback from my previous ultra training, because ultra training is not marathon training, but longer. And I think the body doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and I think that's when the app, there needs to be a personalized touch, isn't there? Of like somebody going, no, you're tired, you need to rest, or okay, we need to, and there's so much more that goes into it than run 20 miles. And
100%. And coaches will always, I think, be better than an app. But the reality is that not everyone can afford 100.
No, totally. And everybody works differently, and everybody can dip and dive as they feel. Sometimes coaching, as you found, you need that coaching, and then sometimes you want to take a bit of ownership on your plan, don't you? And you want to feel like, I'm doing this myself. And
100%. So I take it with a bit of pinch of salt. I kind of look at the plan and then I see what's going to work for me. So
you choose the ones you like. I like that.
yeah. I'm like, that run looks horrible. I just need to run then.
We need to that app does look really good. It looks proper, like not just something. I think it
is good. It is good. I think it's going far. It's relatively recent, but I really think it's going to go a long way. I have a discount code. If I can share it.
100%. Yeah.
So if you use the code Flora, just my name in all caps, it will get you the first 2 weeks for free. So you can test it out
Check it out, guys. Yeah.
If you like it. And if you don't love it, that's fine. But I think it will work for a lot of people.
I'm gonna have a deeper dive, as people say, into that app. Should we fire away with some Patreon questions? Because otherwise we'll get told.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, or should I do first?
I'm going to go first.
Go for it.
one of our patrons is asking, they said 10,000 feet, 100K is not the most hilliest, of course. Whereas
I put that, sorry. That was me. I added that.
Is this your
I added to that question.
Say that again.
I know it's probably maybe sound like a bit of an idiot, but it's not ratio elevation for distance. It's not crazy.
Yeah, it's the same elevation as UTS, but for twice the distance.
What do you do about training for hills in an ultra? How do you get the elevation in and the conditioning for the downhills? Are you kind of thinking about that?
It's a great question. And actually, you know, I had someone ask me the same question in the first 5 kilometers of MCC. First 5 kilometers of 17 kilometers of uphill. Someone was like, so how do you train for hills in Bristol, as he said?
Like,
I was like, what hills? There are hills in this? Stop.
Yeah.
The reality is, I mean, Bristol is a very hilly city. I think we have
you've got 7
steepest residential road in England, in Bristol. So we do have hills. They're just very small but continuous. But also when you look at the studies of it, it basically shows that your flat speed, your top end speed, is directly proportional to your running on hills, the speed that you can run hills, basically. I said that really badly. But effectively, if you can work on your speed in interval training, then that will translate really well to hills. And
fitness
so
is fitness. Jason Cooper
fitness is
likes
fitness
to say that, doesn't he? Fitness is fitness. And I'm always like, yeah, but you tried running down 1,000 meters relying on your fitness and your quads will be.
Yeah, I mean uphills. For downhills, I think actually you do really need to do some quad sort of conditioning. Thankfully for me, my quads are just always pretty strong. I think it's purely genetic. I don't think I've done anything to deserve it, but I do go to the gym a lot. I do a lot of weighted step ups, weighted walking lunges, leg curls, leg press, like all that kind of stuff to basically just build up base strength in my quads so that when I do go down hills, they can kind of cope. I have never had an issue, touch wood, with excessive downhills, but then I've never done 100K before. So I think it'll be a fun surprise for my body. But yeah, I do non-specific training for the first however many weeks, like 10 weeks of a training plan, and then get to the more specific stuff later on. And when it comes to running hills, I go to the Brecon Beacons, which is really hilly, really tough. And that always destroys me. Or I go down to the Mendips, or I go down to the Jurassic Coast. And the hills are not as big down there, but they are just never ending. You are never running on the flat. It's up, down, up, down, up, down constantly. So your legs getting a lot of conditioning that way. So it's a variety of different stuff. So top end speed through interval training, gym workouts, and then more specific stuff later on my local hills.
It's good. And also, it's not a multi-day event, is it? So you can cope with DOMs on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Exactly. Yeah, you won't. They'll probably be all right. It'll be the next day when you go to the loo and you go, oh.
Yeah, but I think my resilience, because of my gym workouts and the fact that I come from a more strength-based training, I think my resilience is quite good because that 4-day ultra that I did last year, my quads were the least of my issues, despite the fact that over the week we did over 8,000 meters of climbing. It was intense over 4 days. Yeah, it was pretty mad. So yeah, I whatever I'm doing, I guess it works.
Cool, I love it. We've got another Patreon question, and you mentioned earlier actually you like to race, you love to race. Do you think you need to enter races to motivate yourself to train, or you would train anywhere?
I would train anyway, but the training that I do between races shifts to a more balanced mix of hiking, running, climbing, gym workouts, other stuff. It's a lot more relaxed on the running front. To be able to push myself to the point of not really wanting to go for a run, but having to go anyway because it's in my training, I have to pretty much sign up for a race. But like I said earlier, racing for me is not just about pushing myself to the extremes. It's also about having a really nice day out on the hills and having someone to organize the route for me and give me food on the way around.
Cookies.
Yeah, give me cookies. It's not just about all of the racing part of it. It's about everything else as well. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a mix. But the fast road stuff, like 10K, 5K, half marathon, time trials, all of that, I absolutely have to have a race to be able to do all of that kind of stuff because it is not what I love. That is purely the conditioning side of things.
Yeah, why would you do 200s and 400s if you didn't have to?
Gross.
Gross. Last Patreon question for us. Is there anything in the works to take your business / YouTube to the next level, or are you happy as you are? Is there plans afoot?
So
probably always is with you, plans afoot. I get the feeling that there's always something.
There's always plans, but I don't do anything specifically to grow my YouTube. You know, I'm doing all of these things because I love doing all these things, and I get the impression that sharing them helps people. And that's the reason why I do it. I think we have a bit of a strange view of what success is. You know, if I don't have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, then I'm not successful yet. And I just don't really subscribe to that way of thinking. I'm like, if I can help some people, then that's great. If I can help people whilst also doing something that I love, that's even better. So no, I don't really think that I need to take it to like the next level. But if something that I do really resonates with people, and that means that I get more subscribers or more views or whatever, then that's even better. That's great for me. But I don't do anything in order to grow my channels or whatever.
I think that's the right way around to do it.
What a healthy approach to life.
Yeah.
I might have more subscribers if I did. So maybe.
Oh, you will. Well, don't worry. When you've been on this podcast, you'll be.
Oh, wow.
My gosh, it'll be. You might have to not go out for a little while. People will be just recognizing you down Tesco's.
Anything else? Yeah. Any other races entered for 2023?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a packed schedule because
I've seen the schedule. It's given me a little bit of anxiety, Flora. Let's go through it.
It gives you anxiety. Imagine how I feel. So, okay, let me explain. So last year was basically, I was holding back a lot last year because I didn't really know what my body was capable of. And I'd signed up for some pretty insane stuff. And I wanted to give myself a lot of time off after each of those things.
Very sensible. And then what's happened this year?
This year, I was like, oh, I completed all the things last year. Maybe I'm superhuman and I can just do everything. So I signed up for everything, which in this case is the 100K, Lakes Traverse. Then 3 weeks later, I'm doing a multi-sport race in Croatia, which is like island hopping between 3 different islands. It starts solidly with a marathon across an island. And then overall, I think it's 50 kilometers of running, 27 kilometers of kayaking, 70 kilometers of cycling, and then 3 kilometers of stand-up paddleboarding over 3 days.
Oh, that sounds like an adventure race. Amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the first races I ever did was
the paddleboarding is the one that would give me the most anxiety. 3 kilometers is quite a long way.
I'm hoping that there's a tide.
Yes, if there's a tide of
direction.
Right. Not the other
27 kilometers of kayaking, that's what fills me with dread. Like I just don't have the strength anymore.
You come on, you just reenact the old boxing. You'll be fine. Muscle memory will come back to you.
Yeah.
Sure. Why not? And then less than 2 weeks after that, I think it's 10 days after that, I've got UTS 50. Which is probably the one that I'm the most nervous about. But with it being the hilliest, I'm also thinking I can do a lot of hiking, which is great. Because I think my body will be a little bit destroyed from the previous 2 races.
Yeah. What
but if I can do hiking, I know that I can hike all day. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it'll be okay. But again, I do think I'm going into these a little bit naive. I really don't know what I'm doing. But I've wanted to race up there for ages. So it's just a bucket list one for me. And I'm really excited to do it.
What are the cutoffs on UTS? Are they quite generous? I've got no idea of the timings for that race.
I don't think they're that generous, no. I think I have to not dilly-dally. I think I have to
move. Eat a cookie, move. Eat a cookie, move.
But I know that once I've done that, I've got some time off. So I know that I can kind of really push myself in that one. And then I've got off several months before even my next I got a training week in July, and that is my next thing after that, that's in May, 13th of May, I think it is, something like that. I've got some time between those 2 things. And then later in the summer, in August, I'm going to go and do OCC, which is the 56 kilometer, I think, UTMB race, which I'm super excited about. I went to go and watch my friend do it last year and got so jealous. I had to sign up.
Bit of FOMO, yeah.
Yeah, and then a month after that, 5 weeks after that, I've got a 250K 5-day ultramarathon in Sweden. on the Swedish high coast, which I'm so excited about because I'd never even heard of it. I didn't even know that it was a thing. And then I Googled some pictures and I was like, I have to go. It's so beautiful. And the great thing about that is it's not a race. It's with Tribe. So it's a charity raising mission, basically. And they're who I did the Croatia event with last year, and the routes are always beautiful. I absolutely love them. So I'm really excited for this one. I know it's going to be great, but that will be my longest ultra ever. 250k is a long old way.
Oh, there's a
Hello.
Okay, thank you.
Wyatt.
Oh,
Yeah,
lovely
all the
dog.
time his head just suddenly came up and went, oh, hello.
Yeah, she's always there. Just watch. She's my little guard dog.
And who is the company? Sorry, Tribe. Is that Tribe Nutrition or is that someone completely
Yes, so
separate?
Tribe Nutrition have a sister kind of company. They're like joined to the Tribe Freedom Foundation. And what they do is they work to end modern day slavery for women and girls here in the UK. And it's a surprisingly big issue. And actually, COVID was really bad for it because there were far fewer checks, far fewer stops in place to stop it from happening. And yeah, so what we do is we pledge to raise a certain amount. And I think last year we raised, I can't remember the exact figure, but is an insane amount of money. And every year or every couple of years when they do this race, we raise more and more. And each time we can build homes for people in rehabilitation, basically from modern day slavery. And then they can reintegrate them into everyday life, which is the work they do is incredible.
What an important thing to do. I guess it's wonderful.
Yeah. And that's my last race of the year, so I can be thoroughly destroyed after that and just sleep forever.
Wow, that is busy. I thought I was quite busy, but yeah, that is busy. These 200 and whatever kilometer races. Amazing. Well, best of luck with everything there, Flora.
Thank you. I'm going to need it.
You don't need it.
Yeah, you got it. Before we let you go, we have our quick 5 questions that we end every show with. First one, you can answer this from both point of views, actually, as a consumer and a creator, but what is your favorite social media platform?
Currently, probably YouTube. I think it's the best way of getting to know people. You get a bit more of an insight into people's lives and what they're actually like than just like a picture on Instagram.
Good old YouTube. Yeah, I love YouTube too. You get the call from a production TV company and they're offering you a place on a reality TV show. Which one would it be?
Probably SAS Who Dares Wins.
I knew it. I got it right. I knew it.
Oh, yeah, well done.
Love Island.
It's hardly going to be Love Island, is it?
I was just trying to think, which one are they? You got Ant and Dec, In the Jungle, SAS.
I don't know any other reality TV programs.
Wouldn't you love though to be on? My husband always jokes if ever we've like flicked onto Love Island and it'd be like Eddie's gone for another run, so she's not here today.
I don't know if you're allowed. I think you just have to relax in heels.
Oh, well, there we go. That's our stumbling block. Before we've even got the audition process, they'd be like, put the heels on. I'd be like, I don't have any and I can't get my calves in them.
Yeah, I don't think they provide trainers so that you can go for a run. Like, I just don't think that's a thing.
No.
That's not.
I've never watched. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I've never watched the episode. I think that's quite a little badge of honour, that. Never watched it.
Again, I would like to go on SAS Who Dares Win to go. Eddie felt she hadn't done enough training today, so she's gone back out and is doing all right.
50 press-ups, wasn't enough.
Everybody would. I'd be like, this is well, Flora, you'll be brilliant because with all the, I am always would be a bit nervous about the combat stuff because I think that's not my vibe. But
give me those gloves.
You'd keep that secret and then you'd go in and you'd be like, come on then. I don't want the women. Bring the men. I want to.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't done it in a while, so I'd probably be awful. I'd be like, yeah, I can do boxing. And then I'd just be like, no.
Great. Oh, next question. What would you do if you won £1 million?
I'd put it into a savings account because I'm so boring.
Very responsible.
I'd probably also go on holiday, let's be honest, and maybe move house and get another dog, probably.
All right, next question is, where would you like to time travel? Would you go back to the past or maybe to the future?
I don't know. I feel like we have this view that everything was better before, and I just actually don't think that that's the case. There's a great book by Steven Pinker called, I think, Angels of Our Better Nature. And it basically says that like nowadays is the best time to be living in. So maybe I'd go back to like 2016 or something equally boring like that. or maybe to the future. But I'm actually quite afraid of our future with climate change and all that kind of stuff. So I'm anxious enough as it is, like in our current time. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, where would you go back to? I'd quite like to go back to like the Victorian era and just see what it was like.
Yeah, but like you might just die of syphilis.
No, but no, you're not. You don't have to get involved in any of that.
Yeah, but you're just there. Like if you want to drink the water, you're going to get cholera.
I take my precision hydration.
Yeah, you're allowed one luxury item.
Protects you from cholera.
Yeah, that was free advertising too, Eddie. I've heard that though before. This moment in time is the best moment in history. Okay, last question is every week we will share our podcast on Instagram and you get the choice of the music that we use on the Instagram story. What are you going to go for, Flora?
Well, probably a lot of people who follow me on YouTube know this, but every interval session I do, I just play Muse really loudly.
Okay.
All of Muse's albums. So I'm going to go with the first song on my playlist, which is Supermassive Black Hole. Yeah,
I'm going to write this clearly because you guys that come on the podcast are so much cooler than me, and I never know this music.
No, this isn't cool. This isn't cool. I'm like 10 years behind, so yeah.
Well, doesn't that make it cool if you're like, yeah, like this band, it's 10 years ago.
I find it amazing Muse make all that noise, and I think there's only 2 people in the band or something. It's like
noise. It's called
Muse. I quite like. Yeah, I like Muse. I'm not like dissing them. I do enjoy, but it's like, wow, how can they produce that sound with 2 people? It's
well, you've got kids, Gary. You know they can produce kids.
Maybe there's like a whole band backstage that we're not aware of.
I think it's bigger than 2 people, but maybe it's just 2 frontmen. I don't know. I've seen them like 4 times and I still don't know.
Isn't he quite hot, the guy from Muse?
No. Well, he's old. He's oldish now. So.
Oh, he's not that old. Goodness sake.
He's older than you'd expect. I first saw him when I was like 13, and I still think he's the same age as then. So
he's not that hot. See, there's 3 of them. Three of them in the band. Oh, well, he's quite
better than Marco, and we had Marco on for music last week or the week before.
It's nothing. You got to stop going on about that, Gary. Right.
That's it.
Come up and Flora, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. What a lovely story. I've learned more about you now. Then best of luck. Fingers crossed with the little niggle. Hopefully she goes away. Best of luck, and we will track and trace you on the Lakes Traverse, and hopefully see a great result. Good luck then with the recovery and all the rest of the races.
Yeah.
As well.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It's been a delight.
I always know I've enjoyed myself because my cheeks, I get achy cheeks.
Yeah, me too.
Lovely guest, and with the doggy.
Yeah, and the dog. Cool. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm like a broken record, Eddie. I enjoyed that. I don't know what I expect why I say that, because I literally do pretty much enjoy every chat we have with our guests. And what a busy year has Flora got. Best of luck with that ankle niggle. Hopefully she's over the worst of it. Check out Flora over on Instagram, YouTube. And if you'd like to check out the Silva Lakes or Northern Traverse, then pop over to northerntraverse.com. I do believe entries are still open. So if you're looking for a April race, I know we haven't got long to go, but if you're
fit, you're healthy.
Yeah.
She's just sent me a message, actually, Flora, saying she's just gone for a run and the ankle was pain-free. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we will see her on that start line and we enjoy following her journey for the rest of the year.
I'm going to do it. Strava. Thanks to everybody over our Strava club. Yeah, nearly 800 people over there now. And this week, I think it's not the first time Sarah Perry's had a clean sweep, but yeah, 130 miles. She has covered this week, 34 hours of exercise and 28,000 feet of climbing. I do love my children. If I could have a week I'm not even one. I'm so lucky. I can't complain about the amount of exercise I'm allowed to do without anybody giving me grief. But yeah, if I had half term off and no kids, I still wouldn't do 130 miles.
I had a message from Georgina Phillips asking to shout at her local race, which is the White Horse Trail half marathon. So I had a little look up of this race, www.whitehorseharriers.uk/trail race. It's they say half marathon-ish. White Horse Gallop, it's called, a circular trail running race starting and finishing on the Ridgeway, taking in the sites of the National Trust Ashdown House and the original White Horse Hill. It says it's an undulating route. It has about 1,200 feet of climbing. And there was comments. I like to read the reviews, and there was comments about some lovely flapjack. So if you're looking for a hilly trail half marathon, head over to White Horse Harriers.
Sounds great.
Angela Green has sent us in an epic story. Gary's just gone, I'm not reading it, Eddie. You got to read it. Poor Gary would
Only because I'd butcher it.
No, you wouldn't. Bob Graham-related tales from the trails. Here we go. I have been borderline obsessed with finding the best line from Rosset Pike to Bow Fell for quite some time. Can't even really explain why. But every time I head up Langdale, I always cast my eye up to the mighty fell and wonder how the hell you find your way up through all the boulders and then navigate the crags to reach the summit. I've read the Wainwright books and studied the rock faces of Great Slab, Cambridge Crags and Balfour Buttress, but never been up close and personal. So on a rare day, here we go. She's got a rare day too, Gary. Without kids or work, I ventured up to Langdale with this as my sole purpose for the day. No GPX trace on my watch, but a confidence I'd find the trod and all would be fine. Needless to say, oh dear, it was not fine. I found a trod which someone had placed little baby cairns to line the way, and I thought, how kind, but not really fitting in the ethos of the club. Some rather hairy traversing with steep scree dropped off to the valley below had my knees knocking a bit, but I carried on, focused on my mission. As I rounded the hillside, Bowfell's enormous crags slowly revealed themselves, and it dawned on me this really wasn't right, and I'd been following climbers' cairns. I then found myself staring at Bowfell Buttress, completely awed by its magnificence. As I sat and marvelled at it, I realised I'd lost the track of time, and I was then on a countdown to get back for a rendezvous in Ambleside with the kids.
Ooh.
I contemplated, oh dear, contemplated the North Gully and also traversing the scree over to the Great Slab, but decided I'd live my life more and started to retrace my way back to where I'd come from. But in reverse, I kept losing the cairns and suddenly started to fear the steep drop-offs and found myself inching round on my bum. Mindful of the ticking clock, I was starting to have a bit of a flap, but then recalled Ellis talking about regulating emotions and then thought, what would Edwina do? Oh, God, don't ask yourself that question in this sort of thing. She would definitely not do anything without sitting down and having a snack. Oh, good. I'm so glad this is what comes next. So as I perched down on a rock, I started rummaging in my bag when two walkers appeared from nowhere, and they reminded me of Eddie's guardian spine angels appearing. So over I went and struck up a conversation. They were also a little bit off-piste and looking for a way up. Being the naive sheep I am, I followed them up. And as one said, there's a gully there, and that doesn't look terrible. I thought, it doesn't look too good either, and it was very wet. They then snapped into scramble mode, putting poles away, switching to some kind of special gloves, and off one went. So without thinking, I threw myself next in line and immediately regretted. The handholds were tiny and you could barely get a toe onto push-up. But I was committed, so had to just really dig deep and said a prayer that each step would hold and kind of wedged my arms into the side of the gully and hold myself up with all my might. I could feel my legs shaking and felt really sorry for the guy behind, especially at the point where I was momentarily paralyzed and he had to coach me up. The lead guy was already standing at the top, and when I got almost to him, he said, "You may want to reverse to the left," which meant getting out of the gully and onto the top of the crag. I very ungracefully rolled onto safe ground and nearly wept with relief. When I finally stood up, I blurted out, "I'm sorry, but I really need to hug you." They just stood there a bit stunned while I threw myself at them. Oh, the shame. It's funny what a surge of adrenaline will do to you. Anyhow, after an exchange of boiled sweets and a selfie, we got on our way. What absolute superstars they were.
Oh, my goodness. Beryl, the Jeopardy. That's unbelievable. I know exactly where she means. And yeah, it's not the best of paths up to Bowfell. And I've done it. I've never seemed to have strayed as far as Angela did, luckily. But yeah, I've just kind of by luck, I think, made my way up there.
We've all taken lines. I wasn't sure what line she was going to do. Where the story was going to go. But luckily,
but there's little cairns. Like I say, I know exactly where she's on about. There's little cairns, and I just followed the cairns. But I must.
Don't I can.
Ken,
It's
sorry.
Ken.
Well,
Debbie
maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. I don't
Debbie
know.
always tells me off because her son's called Ken and I always call him Khan. She's like, oh, it's Ken.
But yeah, I do remember those Kens, and I must have just kind of headed up a bit more direct, while it sounds like she just kept going a bit more.
But never be scared, anybody, to retrace your steps if ever you find yourself and you're not sure. I would never commit to a line that you're sure you can do. There's nothing wrong with ever turning back. But as Angela so rightfully did, snack first, then maybe.
Snack first. My wife always says, make sensible decisions, Gary. She knows I'm going to go out onto somewhere that's potentially perilous. She always just says, remember, simple decisions.
And you can always slide on your bum.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Angela.
So, she has added on the, so it still remains a challenge to find the bob going around. She's looking for volunteers to take her over the right line. Shout up Angela Green. She's on Instagram. Find her. And
yeah, because then I wondered where she went to Langdale's and she would have cut across. Yeah, okay. I'm saying that because I just think leg 3 is just an epic day, especially to get over to Rossett and Bowfell. But if you start a bit further in, that's super interesting. Angela. Challenge. Should I accept the challenge?
I know it. Oh my gosh, I love it.
I'm not committing yet.
We had a question in a spine kick question. We thought we'd add on to Tales from the Trails today from Simon Holt. He wanted to know, how do you keep your technology charged? Is it from battery packs or can you charge at checkpoints? So both, Simon. So I took the Inui. I've got it here, holding it up for YouTube listeners, INIU, battery pack. What I did was I bought 2 of these, of course, and then I had a fully charged one in my drop bag, and then I just used one on the trail. It tells you it's really good. It tells you how many percent. It's got USB.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
USB chargers, and I don't know what that one is, the phone charger socket is called. It's a little bit weighty. I have got a smaller one, but it doesn't have as long battery, and so I took a little bit of weight. It's quite a nice size, so I fitted it in my breast pocket along with my GPX, and then I just had a phone charger lead sticking out of it and a watch Garmin charger lead sticking out from it. So if anything went dead or was dying, it was just super easy to just charge it on the go. And the only thing, I did have to charge my watch a couple of times.
And every Middleton was like luxurious.
And then every checkpoint you get to. So what I did as well, super tip, was I got a USB charger in one plug. So it had like 5 USB sticks, and I just bought another Garmin charger. So I never had to take the one out of my backpack, because I thought, imagine if you've lost that and then you get lost on Crossfell because you can't charge your phone. So I had a Garmin charger, a phone charger, and then a USB charger for other little bits. A
little tip though for people charging electrical items: not every plug with a little USB outlet is equal. They're different power ratings. So when you go on Amazon, if you're looking for a plug like that, I can't remember what the wattage is, but I bought one. It was quite expensive, about £25 each for this thing. But yeah, it really charges your devices up super quick.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that. And whatever I got obviously worked. And the volunteers are great. They will, as you go in, especially as the race progresses, in the first 2 couple of checkpoints, you can be a little bit more self-sufficient. But then as the race progresses, they will ask you, do you want anything to be charged? And you can hand your charging stuff over to you. And all the plugs. There was never any shortage of plugs when I was in checkpoints. There were lots of leads. And everybody was charging stuff. So yeah, I would say get a battery and then just practice how you're going to manage it charging. Also, if you've got a Garmin watch, you've got to switch it. I found this out to USB mode in order for it to charge and carry on recording and read. So if mine died, as minute I started charging it, it would come back onto the route. But it's got to be in USB mode. Apparently, I had to watch a few YouTube videos to make that work.
I wonder how many people, because your Phoenix, they look quite similar. I wonder how many people picked up the wrong watch, or if anybody did and ran off with somebody's watch.
I don't think you could do that, because it's got to be in your charger and everything, where you left it. Well, maybe story.
Maybe. Let us know.
Competition. Gary is going to spin the wheel live.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes.
One of us is super enthusiastic about this, and one of us has had enough collating all the names.
Okay.
He's going to record it live in case he's taken to court by anybody who doesn't win this competition, that we did this fairly. If you're not aware of the competition, we have 2 £50 vouchers up from route. People have posted on the Facebook group what they would buy with this £50 voucher, and we are picking two names randomly in our Wheel of Fortune, and I am Gary's able assistant.
Here we go. First spin. I'm not too, trust me on this, but if anybody wants any clarification or verification, I'll happily share the video.
I'll be contacting to see the video. Let's do this.
Spinning away. Well, this is really exciting.
It's really exciting for you because you can see the wheel. I can't, and people are listening to this. So again, not super exciting. Oh. We got a round of applause. Emma Jane Wood was our first winner. Awesome. Well done, Emma. Right. I will remove Emma so she can't win twice, and I will spin it again. Here we go. What was it? Wheel of Fortune. I loved that show when I was a kid.
Kevin Hutchins is our second winner. Wow, this is well done, everybody. Awesome.
That was super exciting podcast listening, Gary, but we'll let it go.
Well, we'll see what the edit's like.
Maybe the tension if you had entered detention waiting to go say your name live on the podcast.
I'll stop that. When you listen to this on Friday, hopefully, or whenever you do, and you hear that you're a winner, reach out to Eddie or myself.
Gary, reach out to Gary. Don't try me because I'll just strike a meaningless conversation.
We'll connect you with the guys at Active Fruit. I'm not too sure how the prize is going to work, whether they're going to give us a discount code or whatever it is, but we'll sort you out with £50 worth of goodies. Thank you, everybody, for entering. We're going to give a competition a miss this week, but next week we'll be doing a competition with another Patreon partner, Protein Rebel. So keep an eye out for that. Gary,
do you want a review?
Go on then. We've got quite a few, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got quite a few. So Gary, we have work on the spreadsheet, and Gary, it actually gives Gary anxiety if the font is not all that I just type in. I mess it all up and it drives Gary mad. I think with everybody, I just annoy everybody that I work with. And then mess it all up, and then Gary goes to and makes it color coded, all the right font. But Gary, these reviews, I can't, they're all different colors.
Well, because I've not managed them properly just yet. Caught me off guard, actually.
I can't work with this, Gary. I can't work with this. Okay, I'm going to do that. Now I'm all over the place.
I'm just going to step back from the keyboard.
I'm finding one. Here we go. Jamie S. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inspirational Spine Queen. Stuff.
I wonder why you read that one out.
I wonder why. None of those comments. Episode 7, 2 hours 37. Was it really 2 hours 37? Oh my God.
Yeah, it was. It took me a long time to do.
I thought it was 1 hour 37. Of living through Eddie's huge adventure. Very honest, inspirational, extremely emotional from both Eddie and Gary. So moving and gripping. Felt I was actually running along with Eddie at times. Best podcast I've ever heard. I will now always look at Robbins in a new way. Would I ever enter the race after listening to this? A big fat no. But my word, total respect to anyone that does. Well done both. Eddie for podium finish and Gary for grafting for his supporting role. You were definitely the grafter there. I took all the glory and you were the guy in the background as ever. Thank you, Jamie. I like that.
Another 5-star review, and I think People Skeleton might have left a review for an hour previous, unnamed, with the podcast we don't talk about.
Memory than me. I've blanked it out.
But yeah, many happy returns. Having discovered Eddie and Gary in their previous situation during lockdown, I was more than delighted that they returned in Tea and Trails, insightful and thoroughly entertaining as ever, with a wide range of guests to suit a wide range of runners. Whether listening over breakfast, that's me, or out on the trail, this is one slot on the schedule you won't want to miss. Thank you so much for that. Thanks to everybody who's left a 5-star review. They are coming in thick and fast, and it really, really does help people when they're on Spotify or Apple find our podcast. I think it's the algorithm works. If you're into trail running or running, then our podcast will probably come up on your feed. So it's super important, and we appreciate every one of them. So you're going to announce your race schedule in now?
I haven't told Gary, and he hates it. He hates it if I won't tell him stuff before the.
You really tease me with your races. I don't think you told me Spine. I think I'll probably guess that.
We So after the spine, I hadn't entered anything because I wanted to just see how I feel. I wasn't sure if it was going to wipe me out for the year, and I'd never want to train. Anyway, of course, I have been pondering stuff for quite a while. Very hard to top a race like the spine. What do you do next? So it's taken me a while to come to that. Like, I don't have to do something not longer, but like, how do I get myself up for a race again? Can I do that again this, and then I was like, well, do I have to get myself all in for a race? Like, it's got to be something really different. So I am going to do another 100-miler in the not too distant future. So I am going to pop over to my second family, the Centurion running family, and run the South Downs Way 100 in the middle of June.
Ooh.
A couple of reasons for this. I'm then going to pop back over here and run, hopefully if I get a place, so this one is to be confirmed, but I've got a backup if I haven't, to run the Thwaites, which is the last 100k of the Tour de Géant.
Yeah.
They're two very, very different races, but there's
what's the time scale between the two?
So South Downs Way 100 is in June, and Thwaites is in September, middle of September. So 3 months. So my reason, this is my mental thinking behind this. I want my next race, I wanted to be something that I could really look forward to. South Downs Way 100, South Downs Way, I love. It has a special place in my heart. I know the route really well. There are no bogs, unless it's a freak storm. There's no snow. There will be heaps of friends. The race will be full of love. It's also a runner's race. And so I was looking at something that I want to run. I don't really want to be walking. I want to be running, but it's got hills as well. So training around here for it is super perfect, especially in the early few months when I can't get up super high. So I'm actually on quite the hilly but runnable trails. I can go and do it by myself. I don't need any, because obviously I've taken up a lot of my family's time. So I can travel over by myself. I can pretty much be self-sufficient. I'm going to put some shout out for some, I don't need crew. I will ask for a couple of paces, I think, because I want to race it. I want to be in it to run strong and run well.
Is this one that you had the course record at some point?
I had the course record for the 50 for quite a long time. I don't think I've got that speed over the 50 perhaps, but I definitely have the strength for the 100 now. So I'm going to try, my training is going to be focused now on running, getting a bit of speed back, getting some strength, especially for the back end of the course. So I'm super excited that I'm going to go and do that. Thank you to Centurion for keeping me. They followed me right from the beginning of my running career and still going with the old lady and the rusty old legs. So I'll proudly put on my yellow t-shirt to go and run that. And then Thwaites is 100k. Oh, 100k, you say, Eddie, that's a walk in the park. 12,000 meters of climbing. So it's completely different, but in the most beautiful part of the mountains, loads of climbing. So I will go, well, my plan is to take my running legs from South Downs Way 100 and then just go back into the mountains for the summer, up, down, the steepest climbs I can find. That scares me. Because, I am a runner. And so my skill set isn't in the big climbs up, big climbs down, but I'm going to throw myself into it. Now it's fine. I feel like when I stood on that start line, having my longest training run being 29 miles, and I did 268 miles. So hellfire, let's do this. So that will be, and then hopefully, and then leading on to, so there's all been some method in this, leading on, I'm going to do the Northern Traverse next April, which you knew about, which we're super excited about, that journey following another really long, hopefully slightly less dramatic than this. That took Bryn a bit of talking into. I was like, look, it's honestly going to be less dramatic. Do not worry. And then I'll throw my name into that.
Still, how many? It's still, is it 200 miles? Just under 200 miles?
It's still huge. It's 180, I think.
Okay.
But there's a little bit more daylight. So I kind of think that probably just keeps the soul alive a bit more. Yeah. And then if I do Thwaites, I get a place in Tour de Géant, which is in September. So next year would be 2 mega races. Let's just see how this unfolds. But I'm super excited to have a bit of a schedule, lots of challenges, hopefully a bit of thought gone into it as well.
I love it. It's not all about I thought you might have went and done some ice ultra or something like that, but no, I'm really happy to hear
That's
you.
in the back of my mind, Gary, but I really want to work. So like South Downs Way, you could potentially, hopefully I'll finish without actually going through a night. Whereas Top Dret, you start at night. So I'll go through 2 nights. James Elson of Centurion very kindly, when I asked him, like, what should I do to build up that sleep deprivation training that I felt let me down a bit in this, not let me down, but I just think you have to experience, the more you experience it, the better you come at handling sleep deprivation. So he was like, this is a really good way because you will go through 2 nights. And 2 nights, like I definitely felt in the spine, 2 nights it was okay. It was after that, so I'll be able to work on that as well. So there has been thought gone into this, and
You'll have a blast when you meet up with the Centurion family again in that community. That's going to be awesome.
One love, one love. I look forward to taking you on my journey as ever with me. So we go. So I'm building back up into the training. How am I going to go about that? So this week I've done my 10 by 1 minutes. I'm going to do my long run so far. I've done about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to switch that up to 2 hours. Won't do much more while we still got snow and cold because, to be honest, it's not super fun and it's cold. So for the next couple of weeks, I'll keep that at 2 hours. Let's face it, I don't need to do a ton of base miles right now. And on my other session, just like you, Gary, I've got 2 choices. I can do 4 by 5 minutes uphill or a bit of a fartlek. So I probably go. I like the numbers, so I'll probably do. Okay. I probably will do the 4 by 5, especially as this morning was a bit more of a fartlecky sort of session. I might do 4 by 5 minutes uphill.
And what kind of rest, or would you just jog back down?
Depends on how high I can get up the hill. Because I could probably do that continuous, depending on the ice. I could put my spikes on and then I'd be able to run up all of it. Or I could make it a longer session and jog down and start again. Because sometimes that's quite good to do too, as you found.
Big recovery, that's the only thing.
It's a big recovery, but in some ways in this phase of training, that's quite good to have, it's actually just about building the endurance back up again, isn't it? And it's not, to me, there's a pyramid that you look at, which has like learning to train, the fundamentals of training. And it's meant to be like fun, and you learn to train and then you train to train and blah, blah, blah. So I feel like for the next couple of weeks, I'm back in the like learning to train. So I just need to re-educate the body into working a little bit harder, the biomechanics of moving a little bit quicker. So yeah, I'm going to.
It's good though. You'll have some key workouts and you go, yeah, I remember what this is all about now.
Because honestly, I did all those in the lead up to the spine training. And then I reckon about 6 to 7 weeks before the spine, that all went because there was so much volume in there, which is the right thing to do, when you really focus on what you actually
more
need
specific,
to
yeah.
Specificity. As you guys know, I love to train. So I'm super stoked. Yeah, come on and beat that. Come on then, beat that what you got lined up.
Well, I got cross country on Saturday. 10K. If I turn up this time, no toilet disasters.
Dramas.
Yeah, and it looks like the team did great without me at Thornley, the fixture that I missed. And I haven't done the crunch the numbers, but Justin, our team captain, he said he thinks we're okay, barring a disaster. I think we are okay. So that is the plan, yeah. And a final fixture of the cross country season. So I'm looking forward to that. Workout wise, well, I will only do 2 of these because the cross country will be the other workout. So yeah, I've got the 20/20s, 3 times 12 minutes or 3 times 10 minutes.
I remember when I do remember doing 5 by 12 minute hills, and you were like, Eddie, I would never do a session that big, and looky here.
Yeah. Well, I must have done them in the past because these are all just spat out from the Garmin training plan.
You doing 12-minute hills.
Well, no. maybe I've dodged them. But I think if I'm looking at this, because cross country is going to take me about 40 minutes, roughly, I think about 42 minutes.
Big chat.
So I will probably ditch the 3 times 12 because that's the biggest volume of effort in those 3 sessions. And also, I think the 3 times 10 was supposed to be uphill. So the recovery is supposed to be the same, even though one is 12, one is 10. But I just can't replicate that. But yeah, I think that's the scary one, 3 times 12. So I'll probably ditch that and do the cross country instead and see how I feel. You know, I had a big week last week, and you can't just keep increasing. Lots of elevation, lots of time on feet. Maybe this, because we have a race
week every month or so.
Yeah, I would have a down week. I'm never really that mindful of it. It just seems to happen a bit more ad hoc. But maybe I've not got a lakes trip planned, so I just won't be obsessing about elevation and distance this week because of the cross country race, and mileage will be what it is. I've found a new podcast. Jonathan Zink reached out when I was asking last week for a non-running related podcast, so I've been catching up on Sean Keaveney. I think he was on Six Music, a DJ on Six Music, but he's gone on his own. He's got his own podcast, and that's quite good. I think Joe Lycett and Joe Cornish, all the Joes I've been listening to this week. I went to the gym yesterday, so that's good. So another lifting session down the gym and a couple of core sessions too. So yeah, not as exciting as you. I've not entered any other races that I have failed to share.
I literally entered the South Downs Way 100 as we were recording this podcast. Yeah. So close your pie hole.
But yeah, it's good. I think, like I say, not so focused on distance and elevation this week. Concentrate on the cross country and then build again next week.
I tell you what we need to do is book up your Dragons back tent mates because I'm desperate to have that conversation so that they can scare you witless.
Yeah, I wonder, because obviously they're not based in Snowdon, Robin, Birmingham, what their thoughts are and how often they're going to get on the course in between now and September. Yeah, it will probably scare me. But I think the lakes, I know the lakes isn't Snowdonia, but when I can do 17 miles and 8,000 feet in a day.
Jeez, that's big.
Okay.
Thank you so much for everyone for getting through the show. As ever, thanks to our patrons and partners. One last favour to ask. I don't ask much, do I, Gary? I don't ask much.
Very demanding.
Honestly, having to ask Bryn about the race schedule, I was like,
Did you score some points before you?
When's the right time to ask to it's and to be like, how can I make this work? And of course, he's so supportive, and he'd be like, yeah, but I know that he's got a bit of PTSD from the spine. So
I've got a friend who's entered a big race, and he's failed to share some of the information, and he's been the best husband ever for the foreseeable future until he reveals.
It's all about give and take. We support each other. I do feel that sometimes I take a little bit more than I give, but I am the key bathroom cleaner and Hoover upper, and I feel that gives quite a lot of brownie points of the fact that I'm the one scrubbing the bleach down the toilet every other day. So sometimes I feel mummy deserves a little break. Anyway, so our last favour to ask, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share would be ace.
And that's it for another week. Thanks for listening or watching, everyone. Stay safe on the trails, run wise, run well, and don't overdo it. It's always better to be 5% under instead of 1% overcooked. Make sure you refuel with lots of tea or whatever beverage takes your fancy. We won't judge.
My name
is Gary Thwaites.
And I'm Eddie Sutton.
And that was episode 12. Was it episode 12?
12, 1 and a 2.
Of Tea and Trails.